Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land your job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hi, everyone. I am very excited to have with me career coach Rachel Montañez. Rachel fell in love with the coaching industry at the young age of 23 after working in Japan and South Korea. Today, she draws on her graduate degree in career guidance and award-winning coaching skills to help career-driven individuals achieve their goals. And she's also coached many mid-level and senior professionals at Fortune companies in over 40 career fields. Troubled by, the growing burnout epidemic and her own sleep deprivation as a new mom, she created a comprehensive career coaching program for individuals who value success and wellness. And she also delivers coaching keynotes and workshops on career development and burnout to companies. So Rachel, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's really lovely to be here.
So you heard me sort of give that brief introduction. I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about your earlier career and how did you come to be in the niche that you're in now?
Yeah, so I did a degree in fashion promotion, and throughout it's kind of like the first year actually, I realized that it wasn't quite for me. A lot of it really resonated with me, and I loved the PR side, I loved the writing side. I realized and recognized that I'm a very creative person, but there were elements of it that didn't resonate in terms of values. And so I started discovering and taking time out. I did some travel. I taught in South Korea and Japan. And it was after that, actually in South Korea, that I came across a book on career counseling. This was back in 2009. And then I started on the journey of becoming a career coach. So I really fell into the profession through learning and exploring and developing self-awareness, and through really understanding my values and where they fit in terms of industry, in terms of an industry.
Well, and that's how we advise people to make career shifts, exactly how you did. You did that. You did learning, you did self-awareness, and found transferable talents and skills to, figure out your next pivot.
Yes, that's exactly it, Virginia. Yes.
I love that. So you work with people all the time that are in similar boats to you. They are in a career where they don't feel like it's a good fit for them. Are there sort of one or two challenges that you see common to people that are looking to make a career change today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I see quite often is this idea around career change myth. Like, I'll have to take a salary cut, or no one will hire me because I don't have direct experience, or the feeling of I'll lose all my safety, I'm invested in this company, I'm going to have to start again. These things that kind of tie back into fear.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot, and that often, we're so busy on our 9 to 5, and work is very busy, and then we've got our home life, and it actually takes energy to get up and do something different. But when you're being held back by these emotions, that kind of suppresses things, and then you just end up, doing the 9 to 5.
Right, and fear it takes up energy too. That fear of making the jump.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the common things that I see. I guess the other aspect would be that it's quite a daunting task. Like, there is so much information. There's quite a thing that you have to think about what to do. So I think the other aspect of it is really knowing what to focus on, what to prioritize, and how to do it.
Yeah, sort of that roadmap of how to get going on it. What have you found that takes people by surprise when they do decide to consider career change?
Yeah, that's a great question, a really, really great question. I think what I've really started noticing, and I say noticing, but I guess I've always noticed it, but really paying attention to and thinking about it a bit more, is the fact that sometimes we overlook so many different things. Not only do we overlook them, but we don't really know sometimes. And I say this in that light because this was me. This too. Not really knowing how to leverage it. That's something that I see often, overlooking and not knowing how to leverage your skill set, your experiences, what you've added to a company, what you've contributed. I see that a lot too.
Yeah, you're right. Our awareness, because I think you're so close to what you do that, the ability to sort of step back and get that high level bird's eye view, of this is where I brought value. These are the skills I use to do that. That's very easy to overlook. You're so right.
Yeah. And the other side of that too is that sometimes when we are at work, we're so focused on our day-to-day tasks and everything that goes on at work. And sometimes we lose sight of where the industry is heading in terms of trends, in terms of labour market information. And so knowing that you've had a particular experience, or knowing that you have a particular skill or a particular background, sometimes knowing how to leverage that from the outsider perspective of someone who understands the industry and is really caught up on industry trend, that can also be really, really phenomenal.
Oh, that's true. So what advice do you give someone who is contemplating career change? They're feeling stuck and they want to get unstuck and really get started on meaningful change. Where do you believe they need to, what's the best place to get started?
Yeah, so often that depends on the individual circumstances. It's different for each person. But in general, I tend to suggest, and I write about this quite a lot too, I on my fourth column, that the focus areas typically are three different areas. So starting with mindset, starting with confidence, internal career barriers, then the piece where we're limiting beliefs as well, starting thinking about what your limiting beliefs are, and then things that you can do to counteract those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Also getting clear on the job function, the industry, where you want to work, how you want to work, and then also the branding piece. So I find the branding and the interviewing piece. So I find that when we're thinking about where to start, it's helpful to think about things in those three areas and kind of walk through those three areas to then get to the final destination.
So the mindset is where you identify these are the values, this is what's important to me, this is what isn't. The second one is where here are the myths and here are counter ideas to counter those myths. And then the third one is the nuts and bolts of this is what the job would look like, this is what the industry would look like, and this is how I would present myself to them.
Yeah, so let me go through that again. So the first part would be thinking about whether it's a lack of confidence that you have, whether it's fear, whether you have some of those limiting beliefs that we spoke about in the beginning in terms of I'll have to take a salary cut or I won't have the necessary skills. So first of all,
I see. Okay.
Where you are mindset-wise and working through that. So it's also helpful to do things like a burnout assessment to improve your sleep, to think of things, tangible things that you can do to help you manage your stress. Because we know that impacts how we weigh risk and reward. So when we're making a career change, oftentimes that aspect of things is overlooked. But if it impacts how we weigh risk and reward, then that's really going to have a big impact on our career change.
Yeah, no, good point.
Yeah, first of all, starting with that. And then the career clarity piece is often where this is kind of where our mind goes to first. Okay, what do I want to do? what are my skills? What are my values? What's my work productivity style? What's my leadership style? Where does that fit? Is it a startup company? Is it Fortune 5? Is it remote work? And then kind of thinking about, where your capabilities lie. And then, the last piece being the piece where we think about, okay, what do we need to translate in your resume? What do we need to showcase? And the whole branding and interview piece.
And closing that divide between what you want to do and how you position yourself for that. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Rachel, what about the person who jumped into this without having focused on those three areas? How do you help that person to get unstuck or maybe they just haven't had any luck and they are feeling very burnt out as a result?
Yeah, that's a great question. 3 words that I love: simplify, leverage, and small. Start small, simplify, and leverage. I think, it's important I think I mentioned this before, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's okay to start in one place and then find out, actually, it might have been better if I did it like this. That's perfectly okay. And the beauty of it is that things can still work out. They can still work out. But if you're in a position where, you're feeling burnt out and you're not quite sure where to start, I often suggest trying to think about your symptoms of burnout. So is it that you're feeling detached? Is it that often it's having a lack of energy, but maybe it's something along the case of not getting 8 hours of sleep? We know that 7 to 8 hours is a recommended amount of sleep. Perhaps you're not getting enough sleep. Perhaps you're feeling really, really negative. Starting with that one thing, and then just simply thinking about 3 ways that you can help to strengthen in that area. And then just start small and build up on that. But I love that question, Virginia, because it really points out the fact that, when we are making a career change, if there is burnout in the way, I say in the way, but if burnout there, then that's really the place to start. That's really the place to start.
And is it your sense that by evaluating the symptoms, and let's say, you probably have a couple, you feel anxiety, you're not sleeping well, by just starting simple and addressing the one, like how would you address the fact that you're not getting enough sleep? What would be an example of how to help with that?
Yeah. So with not getting enough sleep, there are different ways that you can approach it. So, if it's because it may be because, you're working a lot and you just can't find the time to sleep. So things like improving the quality of your sleep until you can work up to maybe getting an extra half an hour or an extra 45 minutes, so forth. So maybe darkening your room or switching off your phone, using night light, things of that nature.
Okay, so just really, really basic ways to get incremental improvements.
Exactly. It's all about those incremental improvements because that's what leads to the lasting change. That tends to lead to the lasting change. The other aspect of it too is, in our work, it's very much support-based. We're here to support others along their journey. And so getting support too, telling a friend, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z. Can you help? Can you help me along with this task? Would you like to be my accountability partner? Things like that can really have a great impact too.
No, I agree. Doing this alone, job search is hard enough, much less throw in job change. It just adds such an extra layer of complexity, especially when you're miserable in what you're doing, and having people around you to support you. It really does lighten the load.
Right.
What do you recommend to that person who comes to you with, lots of different skills, They're very diverse, and they really could go in a number of different ways. How do you recommend they focus? What are your thoughts on the branding and the mindset exercises and all of that when someone could go really in a couple different directions?
Yeah. Well, firstly, that's a great thing if you recognize that there are different industries, different jobs that you would add immense value to. So that's great. I think with that, that's where it's important to perhaps develop your self-awareness so that you are aware of your values and your short-term and perhaps long-term goals.
Okay.
Perhaps doing something as simple as like a pros and cons list, which I often find that I do quite a lot with individuals, thinking about the pros and cons and weighing them up and seeing everything in writing, if that's your preferred learning style, or if it's not, seeing it in a different way, putting everything kind of down and then picking.
And I'm a fan of, I do tons of pros and cons lists as well. But then my problem is that certain pros I weigh more heavily than others, and same with cons. What about having a list of sort of deal breakers? If this, then this is an absolute no. And sort of, to me, sometimes I'll make a decision based on, well, this one has the fewest amount of deal breakers in it.
Yeah, that's also something to consider as well. And that can be really helpful when it comes to salary negotiations.
That's true. Or questions around commute or hours, lots of things.
Yeah. Then you put yourself in a position that you know what you would like to bring to the table. Right.
Yeah, because I found there might be 5 pros and 3 cons, but that one con is such a big deal breaker that it outweighs some of the pros.
Yeah.
I guess if you're like me and you have emotional decision making, that's where the deal breaker list might come in.
Right.
So, Rachel, what about concerns around discrimination in job search? I mean, that can range from everything from age to ethnicity to gender. To me, that adds a whole other level of anxiety and discontent. How do you advise, what do you advise clients with regards to that topic?
Yeah, that's a very trending one, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm 50, so I get that question a lot with some people that are my peers now.
Right.
But it used to be that you were too young and you had to overcome that. So it goes both ways.
Yes, I see that too. Yeah. It's a very real issue. And, when anytime anyone expresses that, I would never personally want to be in a place where I've made someone feel as if that concern is not legit.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it's important to recognize and to so that an individual knows that they're heard. I guess the other side of it too, which I'm really, really big on, so I know I've mentioned the word leverage a few times, which is something that when we're changing careers, we really do not do. And we sometimes don't know how to do it effectively. But I think the other side as well is that remembering that there is a place or there is a company out there that will not potentially discriminate because of age, gender, race, or whatever it might be. And so our job or your job is to not necessarily to find that place, but for that place to find you, because there is a place out there. Not everyone is going to discriminate. And I think really, personally, I found that approach tends to be quite helpful because then it takes the onus off of someone else to what you can control. And that's essentially what our careers are about. It's a beautiful journey that we can control, and we want to learn how to best control it. So I think that works. That tends to work pretty well. Just I guess, in a nutshell, just realizing that there is a place out there that's not going to discriminate. Your job is.
That's right. No, and when you do that assessment around your values, you want, if diversity is important to you, then you target organizations that value that, or if, you, whatever it is, make that niche want to come to you or find that niche. I think that's very hopeful. It makes you feel like you can control, that there are parts of this that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love that. So Rachel, this is one of my favorite questions. Someone comes to you and says, okay, I'm going on a job search journey. I have room for 2 tools in my toolkit. What are must-haves? What can I not live without?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I mentioned this before. I think it's a good idea, or something. It's good to remember that everybody's situation is unique, so it's never a one size fits all. If you're looking for something that typically has proven to work for multiple people in different situations, of course I would say LinkedIn. I actually wrote an article about that just this year, actually, about how LinkedIn is a great career change tool because it helps you brand yourself, it helps you connect, and it helps you research, which are 3 key elements of making a career change. So LinkedIn, but if you're going to be on the platform, don't be distracted by the noise. Have a purpose, and have a purpose and an intention to the platform. The second one, I guess, is probably something that I don't know if we could say it's a tool in the traditional dictionary definition. You are your tool, right? We use a tool to accomplish something, to get something done. While we have lots of different resources out there that can help us in our job search, Pacer for salaries, Glassdoor, Indeed, the Notes app on our phones. Well, there are lots of different, job scan, word cloud,
right,
resources out there. Just be mindful as well that you are the greatest tool for your job search, and sharpening yourself as a tool, so sharpening the way that you communicate, sharpening your mindset, sharpening your attitude, sharpening your level of interest in the field. Those are all great things as well.
I love that. I don't think anyone has ever said that, and it makes so much sense. And it sort of, to me, again, is a very hopeful message in that you can control you. And if you take the time to focus on those 3 areas you mentioned, you are armed with most of what you need. And then you use the resources to make that happen, obviously. But I love that. Rachel, so last question. What is next for you? You're so busy publishing and coaching. Any big goals for 2020?
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
That's always a fun question. I'm glad that you've mentioned hope a couple of times, because I am quite hope. I tend to think, and others tend to think of me as a very hopeful, positive, energetic person, which is quite funny because I have gone through that hardcore sleep deprivation. But I guess I'm hopeful about what may come my way this year through the partnerships that I have and some of the partnerships that are on the way. And I'm just really looking to align with organizations and continue partnering with organizations that are innovators and that have been recognized for their innovations. So I'm looking forward to a few more of those partnerships that are lined up this year.
I love that. So if someone wants to get in touch with you or wants to follow you, sort of see what you are up to, I have included in your bio your website, rachelmontañez.com, and then your LinkedIn. Are those the two best places for people to find you, or can you recommend another?
Yeah, also I'd probably say follow my Forbes column, Rachel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would probably
On the Career Council?
No, it's just if you Google Forbes Rachel Montañez, the column will come up.
Oh, great. No, I read your articles pretty faithfully. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. It really does.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me. You left me with a lot of hope, and I hope job seekers feel the same way.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's SCIM online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.